So most memorable student?
Yes.
Okay, so most memorable student, believe it or not, I don't remember her name, like I said, but she was a student who had a lot of extreme behaviors, was very unstable a lot, and it just so happened one day she had to work an in-school suspension because she was really struggling in the classroom, and had requested that I worked with her when given an option. So I was working with her in kind of our small in-school suspension room that we had where I worked, and she grew really frustrated with what she was being asked to do because she didn't want to do it. So she ripped up her paper into like a million pieces on the floor and was demanding another one. And I said, I'd be happy to get you some tape. You can tape it back together. It's kind of a natural consequence, but I'm absolutely not going to run around getting you new pieces of paper. So she ended up taping it all together. Well, was then really frustrated because pencils obviously don't write really well on Scotch tape. So it just kind of increased her frustration, which at the time I didn't really foresee that. Now, obviously, I think I would do it a lot differently, but that's kind of what happened then. And so she tried to kind of scoot her chair away, and I was kind of sitting catty-cornered to her. And so when she scooted back, my foot was in the way, and I think she thought that I was trying to keep her from moving. And so that just kind of sent her in a tailspin. And before I could really even blink, she had her pencil shoved into my throat. And at the time, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like, go ahead, do it. Go ahead. And I was just taunting her almost, which was ridiculous looking back. But, and so then she got really frustrated and just shook really hard and threw the pencil and fell on the ground, was sobbing and trying to choke herself. And she was making herself throat, gag. And I thought she was going to throw up everywhere. And it was just kind of a hot mess. So I was shaking really bad because I thought, I almost had a pencil shoved through my throat. And so I stepped outside of the door, and I was the only one in there with the student at the time, and just kind of had a complete meltdown. Couldn't even talk. And the social worker happened upon me and ran and got help. And the student actually ended up being hospitalized for about 3 months after that, and finally got the help that she needed. So it was kind of the catalyst that caused it all to happen. But at the time, it was really horrible. And she came back years later and thanked me and whatnot. But
that's great.
It was, very emotional. So, but she was my most memorable. That was 11 years ago, and she's still in my mind. So,
and then we'll go ahead and just repeat. Yeah. What did you learn from this student?
If I remember what I said, I mean, I learned a lot that you can't really do it alone. I think now I would have chosen to do that entirely different. I would have found out more information about her, how, what's the best way to help her? Mm-hmm. How can I do this? What are some good strategies that work? Or, tried some things I think that would have been a little bit safer for both of us. It had a happy ending in the end, but I don't think that would always be the case. And so definitely would have asked for help. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, students have to fall hard and kind of learn hard lessons from situations. And sometimes there's just no preventing that. Yep. And, we all kind of live and learn and change our ways as a result. So,
true.
Yeah.
How did you get into the field of special education?
Well, growing up, my sister had a reading disability, and she struggled all throughout school. And school came really easily to me, reading, especially, and writing were always my passion, and I excelled, and it was just really simple. And so I never really understood why she didn't get it. And I remember just the frustration and the struggle that she experienced, and my parents experienced, trying to help but not really knowing how. And so I just kind of decided that I wanted to try to figure it out so I could prevent situations like that at home, where it's supposed to be a safe and happy place, and it's not supposed to be so stressful and whatnot. So she was kind of my inspiration to do that. So,
what was your original classroom like, and how many students were in that class, and what was your service delivery model?
This is the second school I've been at. So my original classroom was the size of a closet. It was very small and absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Literally we had one little table that we could pull maybe 2 students at. Oh, gosh. And so anytime we did pull out services, which we did occasionally for certain students, but the majority of it was an inclusion type model, which I think that's a whole soapbox issue. I won't talk about that anyway. We did primarily inclusion-based services, but really there was just that small space, and then I didn't even have my own desk. I kind of shared the desk with the other teacher who was there, so a lot of my stuff was just in piles on the floor. So it was just kind of chaotic and very disorganized, and it really stressed me out. Yeah. So, but did you say my caseload? Was that the other question?
How many students were on your caseload?
In my first building, I think I had 28. on my
Goodness.
caseload. And that was like, I had 28, she had 28. So it was actually really large caseload.
Gosh.
Eventually we hired another teacher, but at the time it was about 28. So
That's a lot.
That is a lot. What were your major roles and responsibilities?
well, I would say obviously the IEP writing
Yes.
and holding the meetings and, making sure that the needs of the students were met and that the IEPs were being followed and that, teachers had the resources and skills needed to be able to provide those services for kids because sometimes they didn't have those. And so there was a lot of like modeling and going in and supporting the teacher and letting them know, like, you can do this, like, you don't always have to rely on us, and
Yeah.
kind of empowering them to take that control back. So a lot of, just collaboration and working with big teams of people to deliver the services that the kid needed to be successful and just kind of developing those professional relationships. And then,
Yeah.
of course, like the paperwork and just, delivering the instruction, like math, reading, or supporting in the classroom. So
What policies, people, and ideas have had the biggest influence on your career?
policies, people, and what was the other one?
And ideas.
Policy, people, and ideas. That's interesting. I would say as far as people, probably other educators in general. I think a lot of my professors, whom I hold in very high esteem, especially some of them, I think influenced my career a great deal and kind of made me realize like what kind of teacher I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I think going through my doctoral work was really pivotal too, as far as like my development as a teacher here, because I was able to take a lot of that and incorporate it into my classroom. And just through all the research, I learned a lot about my students that I wouldn't have otherwise explored. So I think that's kind of been a pivotal moment. But I think even, just working with other educators.
What has been the biggest positive impact on the field of special education?
Biggest positive impact. Well, again, because I'm very passionate about behaviors and whatnot, in the beginning stages of my career, there was a lot more seclusion and restraint that was being used for kids who were really difficult and really struggled to maintain appropriate behaviors in schools. And I was always incredibly troubled by the usage and how it was used within school settings. And I know that it still continues to be used today, but there have been many states who have passed regulations, including the state of Kansas, that are trying really hard to kind of crack down and empower their teachers with other strategies and training as compared to, the punitive type strategies of waiting until the escalation has occurred and then, stepping in. And so while I know it can't always be avoided and sometimes it's a major safety issue, I think that a really positive impact would definitely be the regulations that have been passed so that teachers are more hands-off and not putting hands on students like that, because that's just my
Definitely.
personal
Oh, yeah.
opinion. So
What has had the biggest negative impact on the field of special education?
budget cuts.
Yes. Oh, gosh.
And the cutting of people and resources.
Amen.
I know, it goes beyond our control, of course, but I'm always worried that we're expected to do more with less, and it just continues year after year after year. And so,
So unfortunate.
while people and pouring more people isn't always the answer or the solution, I really feel like even the amount of trainings and the amount of stuff that, we teachers are able to get has really been limited.
Hey guys. No, I'm just kidding.
We're like
I
almost
didn't
done,
want you
dude.
to
I'm
think
so
that she's
sorry.
so cooler than me.
What advice do you have for practitioners entering the field?
Ask for help. Like, it's not about doing it all on your own. Utilize your team, utilize people who have the knowledge and the information, because you're so much more powerful that way. And, when students make growth and make progress, it's a whole team celebration. It's not just about one person making the difference. I think it's really a team effort in SPED, and forming those relationships with families is so crucial. I mean, it makes or breaks many situations. And so, there have been times where, sometimes things don't go as smoothly if you don't have that rapport like built. And so I think that's a really critical piece to stop for a second, take the time to inform parents when things are positive, so that way when it's negative, it's not so hard, and just ask for help, and don't think you have to do it by yourself, because you do not, and it's so much more effective if you don't have that mindset.
great
So,
advice.
yeah, so,
Yep.
yeah.